Okay, so you are 51? 51?
49.
49. Okay, 49. You have three kids, two kids?
Two kids.
I don't have my computer in front of me anymore, so I'm guessing at this point. I do know that you are postmenopausal.
Yes.
Okay, postmenopausal, you thyroid issues.
Yes.
Okay, and how long are you on medication for that? I did see you are on thyroxine.
Yes.
Okay. How long have you been taking that?
For 2 or 3 years
Okay.
now.
Okay, and have you noticed an improvement? Do you feel like it's helping, or is it just like, no
I
clue?
haven't noticed really a whole lot. I know when I go in and get my blood work tested, she's always upped it. So I don't know if it's helping or not.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a sign that you really don't have a sense of if it's improving anything or making
Right.
things worse. So it's doing whatever. Um, and it looks as well, history-wise, you you have dieted for a long time. Okay.
Yeah, I think I woke up dieting.
You woke up dieting, and
Woke up dieting when I first was a baby. I
yeah, and
think.
it looks as if your mom had some psychological issues. She was bipolar.
Yes.
So was she really critical?
Yes.
Yeah, probably not only of herself, but she probably was kind of a perfectionist, and then she would go through periods and bouts of perfectness, order, control, and then the complete opposite, which is I suck, I can't do anything. Everything
Yeah.
might as well be in hell because I can't handle perfection. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she always dieted from what I remember. She was a member of TOPS back in the day. That I'm not sure what it stands for now, but she did TOPS, and I remember that she was always dieting. And then the day that she weighed in, she'd come home, and it would be like we would eat whatever we wanted that day, and it was all bad stuff.
Okay. And do you remember when she'd come home and be like, "Sweet, we're going to party?" Being
Yeah,
super excited with her, like, all right, then we don't have to have any boundaries. And the day prior, you were guilty
but
and
that we were
shameful, and
planning.
there
Yeah,
was bad food, you couldn't handle it. Okay, all right. Do you see any of that influencing your way of thinking today?
probably. I don't want to blame anyone. We all do what we
No,
want.
I don't want to say there's blame because your mom did the best she could under the
Yeah,
circumstance of her belief
yeah,
system around being perfect. In
yeah,
fact, she's pretty normal. Based on
yeah,
society's standard, I wouldn't even call her bipolar. I'd say she's normal.
yeah.
Based on how we think today, which is you're either perfect or you might as well stop trying.
Exactly.
Very common.
Yeah, right. And my mind can be like that also, where I'm
All
an
right.
all or nothing type
Okay.
person.
And there's no blame. I don't want you to see it as blame because really all you're doing is you're repeating the way of thinking. It's like training a dog. What do you think's going to happen when you train a dog to be angry and upset and then extremely excited and crazy? I mean, you have been conditioned. Your mom was conditioned. It's not like it just shows up out of nowhere.
Right.
It's a
That's true.
it is a state it is a conditioned state of mind. And when you're raised in that environment, it's hard for it not to train you. Or another word is program you. So in a way, you've been programmed to think, especially, and it may not be in everything, because there may have been times where you saw your mom and went, you know what, this is crazy. So you didn't take her serious. But
Right.
there's the diet part that you got programmed into. The fact that you've chronically dieted for such a long time is a sign that you've been programmed to think that you suck and needs help.
No,
Ne-
and I don't like myself when I feel flabby. I really don't. And
because
I
you feel
remember,
like being flabby makes you less worthy. Being flabby makes you a failure.
maybe.
It's a sign of imperfection.
Yeah, I just like myself thin, and even when I was in elementary school, if I had a little bit of flab hanging over my pants, it just I knew that I had to like not eat for a few days. to get rid of it. So I've always had that all my life. The best I felt was when I was in the Army. I was in the Army for 3 years, and I was so lean and disciplined because when I'm around other people, I'm very disciplined. I'm the type that goes out to eat with people, and I order the salad and the, fish.
And when you get home, you binge on cookies, right?
Yeah, or ice
Okay,
cream.
so you have to know that you're not describing a personality trait. You're describing a belief system.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's so predictable. You didn't even have to tell me, and I already know what you're doing because it's so predictable. This is not... You're talking to someone who sounds bipolar. I'm talking to someone that sounds bipolar with their eating.
I think I am.
Totally. You have to see that. Now, don't see it as you. You need to see it as how you were conditioned to think. And that, like, I love being thin. Would you teach that to anybody?
No, I like to say it as I like to be healthy.
Well, yeah, that is like the wolves in sheep's clothing, right? You have no idea how many people try to convince themselves that I just want to be healthy. And healthy means I don't want to see any fat, right? Like fat is unhealthy. You understand that you're supposed to create fat. It's actually a very healthy mechanism the body does for itself. So, have you ever thought to question that belief? That maybe you were brainwashed to believe that being thin made you a better person. It made you, more worthy. It made you kind of this, I am so awesome mentality. Because that's what you're communicating to me. Not because that's the truth, but that's the truth of the belief system you were taught. That if you're thin, and so what I would assume too is that when you see another woman who is thinner than you or better looking, you hate her. She's a threat. Have you ever felt that way?
I don't think I hate. I think I'm jealous.
Well, it's the same thing. That's pretty synonymous, don't you think?
Yeah.
Jealousy is a state of mind from what feeling?
Yeah.
It's not from love.
Yeah.
So
it's not like I wish them harm. It's just...
No, that's kind of extreme. That's kind of extreme, but you need to see that if you have jealousy of someone who has a thinner body, you see them as competition because you think that being thin makes you better than other people. So if someone is thinner or better looking than you, that means that you are less than them. So you're playing a game of value, a game of pecking orders with who's thinner.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You are wise enough to hear that and go, wow.
Yeah.
Does that sound like you in your character?
No, because I'm a really nice, easygoing, friendly
Totally.
person. And
probably very caring and compassionate. And you probably have a lot of empathy. But for some reason, when it comes to the physique, thinner is I'm better than you. And so no wonder you're going to get an ego. Because when you're talking about, I like being thin. Or, no, I like being healthy. Whatever that is, you definitely are communicating this. I am better and I rock and I own this joint because I'm beautiful. And it's so like, wow, why is there so much ego involved with this? And I get a sense that you were conditioned to think this way. When your mom was thinner, she probably had more swagger. That was probably when she was happy.
Right.
And you saw that and you believed it because you were so young and naive. If you saw someone honestly treat you like shit because they thought they were better looking than you, how would you feel about that? Like, wow, that's really sad, right?
Yeah.
It would be like someone saying, my car is better than yours, so get out of the way. My wedding ring is bigger than yours, so you don't have room to talk. Okay? That's like, really? When I think your main issue here is you continue to use that view of, or standard to feel better about yourself. It's almost like you should just gain 50 pounds so you can just stop playing that game. would probably relieve you of a lot of issues. But
I don't want to do that.
well, no. Well, and I wouldn't want you to do that either, but you get what I'm trying to say. It's like if we give you what you're hating on, chances are
I've
you're going to
been there. I know
open your mind. You're going to open your mind and say, you know what, this isn't something that should be shamed. This isn't something that should be put down. No one should be defined by how much body fat they have. It doesn't make sense to put us all in competition with each other depending on who's got the leaner abs. That's not something that you would be proud to admit.
No. No, but I was heavy. When I was pregnant with my daughter, I was almost 180 pounds. And I remember walking one day, and it was after I had had her, and I was still I was probably in 150s, 160. And I remember walking home with some groceries, and I overheard a couple on their back deck, and they were saying something about how that, man, see why I don't want to ever get pregnant? It makes you fat, or something like that, and they were pointing at me, and maybe they didn't say it.
You were saying it. I'm sorry, but that was coming from your head.
But I heard it.
Yeah, well, that's probably because you've said that about other people. The language you're hearing is coming. You've never looked at a pregnant person and was afraid that you were going to be the one that got fat? No. You just said that. Are you sure? You sure?
I don't know. Well, I've never said it, but maybe I've thought it.
Well, that's what I meant, where you're afraid. I'm afraid to get pregnant because everybody, look at these women, and I don't want to be like them. And then you get pregnant, and you're sensitive to gain, and all of a sudden it's exposing, right? Mm-hmm. Would you say that your pregnancies changed a little bit? It maybe gave you a little more leniency with that perfection belief system?
Yeah, and then actually for a lot of the time when I was a single mom, I was probably in the 130s, 140 range, and comfortable there.
Yeah. I want to make sure I mention that you're 5'2". So, because, 130 for someone who's 5'6", 5'5" is like super lean. So when these people are hearing, I was 134, and you're saying it's fat, they're like, what? I would die if I was that, I'd be emaciated at 134. So at 5'2", you're small framed. So that might be a little bit heavier in terms of, overall body weight for your frame.
Right. And I'm a runner. So when you're a runner, it's really hard on your body.
Are you a runner because it's a form of diet for you? Do you do it because it's burning calories, it's protecting you from gaining fat? It's, what are the benefits of that for you? Be truthful.
I do it for
you just need to know that this industry of exercise is where my expertise is, and my addiction was an exercise, so you're not going to get much past me. So I just want you to be truthful to yourself. You don't need to hide anything. Mm-hmm. Do you exercise as a form of dieting? And there's probably all sorts of other benefits to it.
I would say partly yes.
Okay.
But I also do it for stress. I have
narcotic.
A lot of stress, and I love how it feels when I'm done. So I do a lot of things for feeling, not just for dieting.
Well, all of it's for feeling. What you're seeking is feeling. With dieting, the whole thing is seeking some feeling that you want to grasp because you don't think you can create it without running. That's a runner's high is a real thing, and it's a very hormonal, chemically stimulating thing that is very addictive. Yes. In terms of how you use it in context of feeling better about yourself and thinking that runner's high actually fixes your issues.
Right.
It's very dysfunctional. I see it a lot. If you don't run, do you feel kind of like, I just less accomplished? Do you feel less protected? Do you feel more vulnerable? Yeah. Okay. So there's some dysfunction there. You really need to focus on what would happen if you couldn't run. No. What would happen?
Right.
How much of your sense of worth comes from the accomplishment of running?
Yeah, I remember I had done the HCG diet, and I was at the best place I'd been in. I was under 120, where I love to be at my height, and I was running.
Oops, sorry.
And I did my best time ever on a half marathon. I'm a half marathon runner, and anyway, then I went on a hike, and I slipped and fell, and I hurt my leg, and I could barely walk for 3 weeks. After 2 weeks of hobbling around, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and so I knew it was like, okay, Wanda, you're supposed to slow down and make some changes in your life. And I did.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like really hard for me to go through the breast cancer surgery, treatment, and everything. I didn't give up running. Mm-hmm. I did run. I ran all the way through, even though I was really sick and had no hair. I made it through all my runs. I had to walk more than I did run, mm-hmm. but I did it. And I remember the one that was the most meaningful for me. I was crying, and I was feeling sorry for myself. Like, oh my God, I have no hair and I can't run. And then all of a sudden during this run, all my tears changed from sad, angry tears to happy tears, because mm-hmm. all of a sudden I realized, oh my God, I beat this. I did this. I can finish this. And I actually got my picture taken at the finish line with my bald head. But I did it, and I was so happy with myself that I was alive. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I've gone through a lot of different things. And I was feeling really fat at that point because the chemo made me really bloated. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and I did gain weight during chemo, where a lot of people lose weight. I gained mm-hmm. weight. So,
did you run in hopes that might curb some of that gain?
No, I was running just because I was not going to ever stop running.
Yeah, you just didn't want to, even if your body was like, I'm dying, you're killing me, you were going to do it anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really a hard-minded, I can be disciplined, and it's almost like I do really well eating. I guess my issue is what's good and what's bad. I guess I call sugar bad, and I know you can, it shouldn't be, and maybe I shouldn't label things, but I do.
What you need to look at is, why are you gravitating towards control, especially control with fear? Because when I say sugar's bad, that's a sign you're fearing it. Like, mm-hmm. It's naughty, it's not okay, it's personal.
It is.
Okay. Is it? I need you to use your logical side of your brain now. Let's use the intelligent side of the brain.
Okay. No.
I know. Your logic. You're expressing a lot of emotion.
I am.
There's not much logic going on. You're super smart. You're very wise. But you're not using your logic at all. Yeah. You're expressing, even through your running. Was it logical to run like that during chemo when you're dying? Literally? Where's the logic? Where's the logic? There was no logic. You were trying to prove something. Do you feel, and you did to yourself. Hopefully, do you still feel like you need to prove something?
Maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say you still have this issue. So even if you did prove to yourself anything, are you looking to make someone proud of you? I get a real sense of, I just want to feel proud. I just want to feel like I can feel proud of myself. You're chasing something.
Yeah.
And you're chasing it through abusive behavior. First of all, my mother has cancer. Okay? She is dying. She's gone through extensive chemotherapy and radiation. Could you imagine if I made her run half marathons through that? Could you imagine that? So that she could feel proud of herself and beat it? Would you do that to any other human being? Because it's abusive. However, it's not abusive if running is what makes you feel better about yourself, is it?
Right.
Even though your body is dying. You got to pull out of this. You need to see the insanity in the whole thing. And it's pretty warped, but it's not permanent. You can change this overall view of inadequacy that you have. Because I really believe that what you're describing to me is severe inadequacy, which would require a severe accomplishment.
Yeah.
It really makes sense, when you look at someone who doesn't have they have a real sense of security within themselves. They don't have a whole lot of neediness. They don't need to compete with anybody because they really don't care, right? Who's on top. They don't need it. Would they gravitate to something so extreme to feel comfortable with themselves? No. They navigate more from a place of balance. They still have things they love and like to do, but they don't do it to feel better about themselves. They don't do it to feel like they can be proud of themselves, because they really see things as, I am proud just because I am who I am, and who I am is pretty badass. So I just don't know if you ever got a securing feeling of adequacy from anybody around you.
No, I think you're right. I'm trying to be proud of myself. I've never felt proud of myself in my whole
And you
life.
still don't feel, do you feel, you look back and you're describing it, but you don't see like,
I fake it. I can fake
yeah,
it.
and that's what I'm getting. It's like you're telling me this. I see it for what it is, and you're seeking pride. I just could feel that, and I can hear it in how you're describing it. And it just makes me wonder why you don't just have overall pride in the first place. And what happens, and this is really common, when you get someone who is really needy as a parent, and they're constantly seeking their own validation, they're not going to be able to know how to validate you. Don't you agree? It's like, if you don't know how to validate yourself, and you don't know how to be proud of yourself, how are you going to teach your child to be proud of themselves? What you're teaching is what you're doing. I'm proud of myself when I'm skinny. I'm proud of myself when I'm in control. I'm proud of myself when I follow the rules to perfection. I'm proud if I have all these crazy dreams that are unattainable. Right? That's what you were taught. No one ever said you don't need to do all that. You don't have to prove anything to me. I love you with a B grade. You don't need an A+ to make me happy. Could you imagine what it would have been like to feel that way? I would assume that being that you were raised in a highly critical place, that you had to always achieve something to feel better. And then even if you did achieve it, it was never really good enough anyways. You had to move on to the next thing. There was really no, it was a constant battle to strive to do something better.
Yeah. And then I left. I ran away and left. Mm-hmm. And my mom wrote me a letter every single day telling me, not that she missed me, but telling me about everything that was going wrong because I had left. And so all of a sudden it was my fault that my sisters did all these things that, so anyway,
she loved you.
I just feel like I've never done anything right in my whole life.
Yeah, well, it's because she didn't know how to do things. How do you think your mom felt about herself? Mm-hmm. How is she going to teach you that you are right if she doesn't know how to make herself feel like she's all right? It's impossible. You can't teach something that you don't understand.
Right.
Okay? If you could talk to your mother right now, okay, and as her mom, if you could position yourself in a place to where you can instruct her, what does she need to hear?
She needs to hear that she's loved, and that she is good enough. And I think that's just what I need.
Okay, yeah,
I
because
need,
that's why I asked that, because ultimately what you would feed her is what you need to feed yourself, because you have the same condition. She passed it on to you.
right.
You know, because she didn't know how to condition you any other way. How do you hate yourself and then teach someone how to love? It's impossible. You know, if
Right.
let me rephrase that. If she's conditional, the love that she gave herself was conditional. She couldn't give it to herself unless she was, number one, skinny. But then that still wasn't good enough, right? She had to have the perfect food intake. She had to have, I mean, think of all the things she had to micromanage just to feel good about herself. And then
Right.
you heard it all. You witnessed it all. And you
Yeah.
believed her. And so if you believe her and you think that she's accurate, what happens is your sense of reality is her sense of reality, because she's establishing your bearings around what is truth and what is not. So your mind is basically getting conditioned to believe her beliefs. And she obviously didn't believe she was good enough. And to the point, you know, when you think about her behavior, that extreme perfection and then feeling that much shame, how little did she feel inside? Think about how much perfection she sought to compensate for that. And then, by setting herself up to be so perfect, almost unattainable perfect, to feel better about how small she felt inside, what do you think was the inevitable outcome of that? Inadequacy, because you can't match that weird, skewed version of what perfect's supposed to be like. It doesn't exist. Right? So she creates these extremely lofty beliefs around how to make herself feel better. She strives and works and strives and just kills herself to get there, makes one mistake, and feels like the whole thing is a failure. Shame, guilt, it takes her right back down to that I have nothing, I'm worth nothing, I have no value in my life, there is nothing worth living for because I can't accomplish it. Right? You recognize that thinking? Okay.
No, I feel the same way.
Okay. Well, it's a condition. It's a state of mind. It is a way of thinking that is conditioned. It is taught. It is modeled. You're not born that way. Okay? So if what your mom needed to hear, and I can ask you this, and I say, okay, if you had her as a teenager, how would you prevent this way of thinking? What is it? What's the feeling she needs to have to be able to view the world in a different way, to view herself in a different way, which changes how she views the world? What is it? Can you describe that?
No, I don't know. I keep thinking right now because I have a daughter that's 21 and she's a lot like me, very up and down and
You never
very
saw that coming, did ya? You see it now? Now that I'm kind of
I see it now.
you
And,
conditioned her
yeah,
by your own beliefs. And this
and
is how
she's
you
the
pass
same
down
way.
all sorts of issues.
I did, and yes.
And can you see how, if you can recognize this in yourself, that you can then look at your mom and forgive her? Because you can
Oh, I
forgive,
have. I've forgiven my mom, and I love my mom. I'm close to her,
and you
and
don't take her serious. Now, do you look inside yourself and see, okay, so if you can forgive her, why haven't you changed yourself? Because ultimately, for you to really forgive her, you'd have to understand yourself and then recognize how much grace that you need. It starts with you first. It doesn't start with her and then you. It starts with you and then her.
okay, yeah, I feel like I have forgiven her. My issue sometimes is I don't forgive myself for my mistakes and my bad
Okay,
behavior.
so but you don't see the connection between her state of mind and her beliefs and your beliefs and how that's created your state of mind that's identical to hers.
Yeah. No, I do. I
And
see
how
that.
your daughter is going to at some point have to see that too, so that she doesn't take you serious anymore, so that she can forgive herself and not be defined by that belief system you taught her. And then she's going to have to forgive you so that she doesn't take you serious anymore.
Well, one of the things I think I've done different with my daughter is I've always made sure she knew how wonderful she was. And my daughter has made a lot of mistakes, in my opinion. And I, those are behaviors. I separate what she does is not her. And I think that I did that on purpose because I always felt when I messed up that it was me that was bad versus just my
Yeah.
behavior
Yeah,
that was
that's a
bad.
big difference. That's like giving her the ability to learn from the way she's thinking so she can change her thoughts. Yeah,
So
that's good job, Mom.
feel I feel like I'm trying to do things
Yeah.
different, but I do believe that she's got some of the issues of up and down, and if I'm if I gain weight, it's a really bad, awful thing because I believe both of my children actually have eating disorders similar to me because they've seen me go through this all of
Well, cuz
their
they're
life.
taking you serious. They're taking you serious, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
You have more power than you think you do in terms of how they're thinking about themselves. You may feel that the connection between you and them is good, but what you're teaching them is about their connection with themselves. So if you don't like your connection with yourself, you're teaching them that they should how to if you don't really have a sense of security with yourself, they are using that model for how they think about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you might want to consider trying to focus on what does it take for someone to feel valuable inside. And if you can do it for yourself, then you'll actually know how to decondition your children or at least give them the opportunity to think differently because they're still using your thoughts as their thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So if you change your thoughts and you change your verbiage and you start giving them the freedom and the ability to love without condition, they will quickly lose this insanity. It's really quick. It's just if you continue to hate yourself, they'll continue to hate themselves because that's what you're supposed to do, right? Because they believe you as if your beliefs are accurate and
But
trustworthy.
I never say that I hate myself, though.
Well, your behavior does. I mean, when you say, you don't have to say the words, but, behavior speaks a lot louder. When my mom was afraid to gain fat, I just learned immediately that being fat was bad. I didn't want her judging me. So I just didn't want to gain fat because I didn't want her to look bad at me because she was looking bad at herself. Never did she criticize me ever.
Got it. Okay.
I know the reason why you get it because I just spoke the truth about how you felt about your mom. The fact that she took it so serious meant that you better take it serious because if she's afraid of getting fat, that means you better be afraid of getting fat. You don't want her judging you. That is way more powerful than direct judgment. That passive fear of criticism based on her own self-criticism is far more manipulative and powerful than just saying you're fat. And that's why you've passed down an eating disorder. Your mom passed it to you. You passed it down to them. And it's forgivable. It's understandable. You are only passing down a belief system. You're not passing down a permanently damning thing. It's not permanent unless you get rid of the belief system. They got to stop believing that bullshit. But how are they going to do it? They can do it on their own. They don't need you to do this. However, the longer you do it and the more believing they have, the more trust they have in you, the longer they're going to be having issues with security within themselves. They're not going to get a real good sense of value within themselves. I've learned that with my parents. I have a very independent I broke ties with them at 18. I still love them. I still listen to them. and their opinions, and it still influences, I still have trust in them. They're wiser, they're older, right? Even though I'm completely independent. For this to work, you're going to have to rethink what makes you valuable, because you have this underlying sense inside that you suck, that you're not worthy, that you don't have anything, that you're not special, that you are a pile of crap, right? Do you think that influences your drive?
Yeah.
I would agree. So is your drive to do something coming from integrity? No, it's coming from feeling inadequate. So you're compensating for inadequacy. So it's not even the truth of your desire. It's the truth of trying to fix something that you think is flawed. So the question is, are you truly flawed?
Well, my mind is.
No, that's a state of condition. That's easily unconditional. So you don't go there. I'm talking about you. Are you flawed inside? Do you really suck? Are you inadequate? Do you not have anything special? Are you not special? Are you a pile of crap?
No, I honestly believe I'm special. I think I do have some special.
Okay, what are those? Because you probably have more of an expertise on where you suck than where you are very good at. Your true innate power, like things that are character of you, right? Are you an expert at those? Are you an expert at where you suck?
Probably an expert at where I suck.
Totally. Oh my God, you're obsessive over it, right? You're constantly micromanaging that, but you never really live with what you're good at. You never even use those as a founding way to feel good about yourself. You don't even include those. They don't even matter, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've done a really good job being a mom and taking, being there for my children.
Well, you've done the best you can with what you know, and you should feel good about that. So take that aside. We're talking about you.
Okay.
So you're trying to grasp these outside things. You really need to start thinking about, what does it mean to have self-worth? And why is that so important to someone's life? Could you answer that?
I could come up with an answer. I don't know if it would be truly felt, though.
Well, I'm talking about truly felt. I don't want some fake piece of crap. I don't want fake. Why would you want to be fake and lie? Because what you're saying is, I'll lie about it.
Well, no. What I mean is that I can come up with all the positive things that somebody really should feel.
No, I'm talking about you, not someone else. Like, what makes you valuable? Like, do you have a characteristic? Is there any, when you look at a human being and the human nature of who we are, is there any quality that you see as divine, is worthy of praise?
Yeah, I mean, I love people that are compassionate and caring and empathetic and understanding, and I have always tried to be like that.
Okay, you're describing yourself. In order for you to recognize that and to see that in other people, don't you think you should have a feeling of what it is that makes someone compassionate and caring? So how do you know someone's compassionate, know someone's caring and giving and loving and nurturing, right? Nurturing. How do you recognize that? Is it maybe because that's a quality that you have?
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe it would be important for you to maybe establish your sense of worth with that as the most important thing? Or one of them? Okay. Because would you rather have that quality or being thin?
That's a toss-up.
Oh, I know, right? When you're insane, that would be a toss-up. When you've lost it, that would be a difficult decision.
Yeah, I would much rather be a more compassionate, caring person than to be thin and mean and
Yeah, well, well, I'm just saying thin. I didn't say thin and mean. I just said being thin. If which one would you rather, what's the worth there? Which one has more, in terms of a quality life, living the life, the single now, this life that you have, in terms of getting what you need out of this life, which one do you think would provide you with more quality?
Oh, the caring.
Okay.
Being
See, do you see how I'm like, let's go back to elementary school and really think about what life's about?
Right.
Because for some reason, you have been obsessing your entire life over being thin as if that is virtuous.
Right. That's true.
I know. So, okay. Compassionate, loving, caring, nurturing, forgiving.
Yes, I am very forgiving.
Okay, oh my God, you see, those are the, amazing. Those are Christ-like qualities that you're not even using as a sense of worth. Like they're worthless to you in comparison to being thin. Which one are you worshiping?
Yeah.
Have you ever questioned why you have this underlying sense of crappiness? Underlying sense of I don't have any value? Do you see maybe why you might feel that way? Does being thin really give you a sense of security about life?
No.
Oh, well, can you see why you always feel insecure and why you're always grasping at these crazy goals because you feel that insecure? Can you see why that might?
Yeah, because I've achieved being thin, and I was there for a while, and I wasn't content.
Well, no, because there's no value to it. You're basically saying, I would rather give away $1 million for this single penny. And you wonder why you're poor.
Right.
And then you keep on thinking, well, if I, it just is, you've been conditioned. This is you've been brainwashed to ignore truthful quality, to seek out minor, it's, think about how much of your life you've wasted obsessing over being thin. How much intelligence have you wasted researching ways to get thin? How much shame, like real internal shame, have you imposed on your soul because your body wasn't perfect?
A lot, way too much.
Well, hello, which, you might want to consider, I'm just making a suggestion, do what you want. You might want to consider reestablishing or reconsider how you evaluate yourself.
Okay.
Because everything that you're doing is so shallow that it is a sign that you don't value your true. These are real characteristics that are yours. No one gave them to you. Can anybody make your ability to forgive better? Does it make it better when someone says, wow, you're so forgiving? Does it make your forgiving better?
No.
No one can really give more of it to you, can they?
No.
If they criticize, you're not very forgiving. Does that change your gift of being forgivable? No, because their opinion doesn't really get a grasp of any of it, does it? No one can give or take to this quality.
It might make you think about it, but...
Yeah, well, someone else's opinion, is it credible?
Not always.
Do they... Never. It never is credible. Ever. Because they don't really know your quality. They don't know how dynamic it is and how, free it is. How can you even trust someone else's opinion when they're not when they're not credible, when they don't get it?
Okay.
You put people above you. Where does that come from?
I don't know.
That's a belief system. That is a way of thinking. That is a taught belief system about a pecking order, as if you're supposed to be better than other people. So if you're taught that you're supposed to be better than other people, then you are always putting other people above you. So you are taught that you are less worthy than someone else. And if they have an opinion, that means that they're more credible than you. Really? Who's the most accurate at assessing your personal value?
Me.
Oh,
and
okay. So should you believe even your mother's
No.
opinion?
Right. You're right. Because at the end of the day, it's what I believe that matters.
Yeah,
to
well, and
me.
what but you need to question whose opinion you're using to evaluate yourself.
Okay.
You know, because really when you say it's my opinion that matters, well, whose opinion are you using?
Right. That's true.
You know, what is your opinion? Have you ever thought to wonder what's the truth of how you feel is right?
Yeah. I mean, I have, but I think I've always questioned myself.
So you haven't really felt that you are trustworthy, that you have this integrity that is yours. It's your character. It is your integrity. You have never thought to believe that that is pure and that is divine.
No, I guess not.
And that if you use that as a guide for you, that your life would be more profound. It would be more giving. It would be more forgiving. You wouldn't be so self-destructive. You wouldn't be so hateful towards your body. This is the one body you have, and you realize it has survived cancer. You didn't survive cancer, by the way. You didn't. Your body did. You didn't do shit. In fact, you damaged it by running freaking half marathons in the middle of it. And it survived you, and you're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
When do you turn around and look at your soul and recognize that it is beautiful, it is unique, and there is no possible way that being thin could ever match its profound reward?
Yeah. I know, it's crazy. It really is.
Well, it is a belief system. The belief system is really messed up. And most of you are brainwashed. And until you choose to allow yourself to open your mind, you are going to kill yourself. And you're going to diminish yourself. And you're not going to allow yourself to develop your spirit. You won't. You're going to be distracted by religion, distracted by intelligence, and distracted by all of this stuff that people think makes you more valuable. It is all a mirage. Start with the truth. What is the truth about you? What is the one thing that no one can take from you and no one can give it to you either? It is yours, it is you, and what is that? That is the foundation of your worthiness, and you already have it. So you don't need to accomplish anything. And what then happens to your behavior? What happens then to your drive to live? Is it to compensate for feeling like crap, or is it to magnify the gifts that you have and to give it away, to share it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Why hold yourself back because of 10 pounds?
It's about 15.
I'm so glad you're laughing, and you could hear that. You could hear it, and you could go, oh my gosh, why have I taken that so serious? 15 pounds. Even if it was 150.
Right. Yeah.
Why? You know, if you honestly stopped dieting forever, wouldn't that be amazing? Because you could start thinking about other things, and you don't have to feel so shameful about your salty sweet snacks. You know, and you probably wouldn't want to eat as much as you do because there's no diet coming. There's no diet in front of you. You don't have a diet in front of you to enable you to be clouded and disoriented. Get rid of the diets. You know, we could prescribe this HCG. You could go through this round and we could feed into your disorientation. Give you a diet. Tell you, oh my God, when you're thin, you're going to be happier. Really? I can't do that because I know that that is so wrong. It's so shallow and it feeds your illness and it makes your illness worse. This protocol is not going to make you feel good about yourself. But let me tell you, feeling good about yourself does make you feel good about yourself. So if you need 15 pounds for hormonal reasons, your body, you realize, could do it on its own. It doesn't need the protocol. You know that. What if you just got out of the way? What if you just left the situation and let your body tell you when to eat, let your body tell you when to stop eating, and you actually ate what your body was craving? What if you actually just let your body run the show? What do you think would happen? And what is the truth? What's the truth of that? What is the truth if you let your body decide what you do moving forward? Could you accept your body? Could you accept it as the more intelligent piece of information? And then could you accept what it gives you as a result? Because isn't that the truth, really? Isn't that a true depiction of what it was meant to be, what the Creator created it as? Isn't that the truth? Could you accept that truth and not feel like whatever it is damning you to hell? Is it worth being truthful so that you can release your soul to go and magnify its true value? Could you put this whole thing aside and let your body deal with itself so that you can free your soul to magnify its true quality, to share your gifts? And tell me what your life would be like. Would it feel more creative? Would it feel more vibrant? Would you appreciate the sun? Would you appreciate the snow? Could you just be a kid again? You know, when you're just in every second is a moment in itself. Do you feel how expansive that thought is?
Mm-hmm. No, and I do appreciate the outdoors, and I am the type that can go out and just smell the flowers and enjoy.
Well, can you imagine what that experience would be like without this underlying sense of failure?
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is almost an hour long, so I'm going to turn this off.
Okay.